Welcome to the Free Church Sunday service. Our mission is to help people follow Jesus, know their true identity, grow in freedom, and go live with purpose. Our vision is to see renewal, restoration, and rebuilding taking place in us and through us as the kingdom advances in our city. We hope that this message encourages you.
The other day, I was having a conversation with one of my kids who is in primary school, and they were telling me of how they'd done the school project where they had to design a functional traffic light system in robotics. And I was like, wow, that's incredible for two reasons. Number one, I thought there are so many traffic lights in our city that do not work. We need more people who can make them work. So come on, the next generation. And the second thought that I had is, I did the same project in second year engineering. Boy, did I feel old in that moment. And they were explaining to me how it works, but it did take me back to, and if you know anything about coding, you'll know this really well, the logic of an if, then, else statement. And this is how it works. If something happens, then do this, otherwise do that. So in a traffic light system, if the timer runs out, then change one light from red to green, and there's a little bit of an orange light timer in there as well. Otherwise, if the timer hasn't expired, then just stay as you are. And if it's the middle of the night and the light is red and a car arrives at the traffic light, then wait a while and then change to green to let that car through and change the other light to red. Otherwise, just stay as you are. I found that if, then, else logic is my default operating system. If you do this, then I'll do that. Otherwise, I might do something else. If you treat me in this way, well, then I'm going to respond in this way. Or otherwise, I might do something else. Maybe you do the same thing. And what I found is I put that logic onto God. And maybe you're here and you believe not in the God of the Bible, but some kind of higher power. But I would bet that you have some kind of if-then logic operating in your mind at a subconscious level as well. And the way that you'll know that is you might have once said a statement that goes something like this. If you're out there and you get me out of this mess, then I promise I will, and you fill in the blank. If the pregnancy test comes back negative, then we will stop sleeping together until we're married. Like if you could just help with that. If you will get me out of this mess, if you will come through for me in this deal, well then I promise I will be generous. Anyone ever had a conversation with someone out there like, if you do this, then I will do that? Here's the problem. In fact, two problems with this way of thinking. Number one, it assumes that the higher power, or in my case, what I believe, the God of the Bible, it assumes that He needs my help for something. Hey, God, if you help me in this situation, then I promise I'll help you. I could just imagine God sitting in heaven going, oh my goodness, what a deal. How could I refuse? Like I would have never been able to do it without you. I'm so glad that you are offering me this deal so that if you behave in this way, well then, I'm going to get your help. Yes, come on. And I guess sometimes God graciously obliges because He wants to have us part of His story. The second problem with that way of thinking is it assumes that God has the same logic operating system as I do. And it assumes that God sees things in the same way that I do. And it seems to assume that I have the full picture and the whole perspective so that I can make a statement as bold as, God, if you do this for me, then I'll do that for you. There's a prophet in the Old Testament, his name is Jeremiah, and he wrote down these words that God spoke, my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. Which just a reminder to me when I start slipping into that if-then logic and putting that on God, just to remember that God might see some things that I don't see. He might have a different perspective. In fact, He probably does have a different perspective to what I have. Now, there are stories in the Bible where people do make these kind of deals with God. Though the writer of Ecclesiastes does warn it's not a good idea to make a deal with God because He's going to hold you to that. There are some stories of those, and there's some stories in life of it too. My own father, one day he sat on a hill before I was born behind our house with a bottle of alcohol and a revolver in his hand, and he shouted to God, and he said, "If you are out there, then come and speak to me now, otherwise I'm going to kill myself." And God obliged, and he came, and he spoke to him, and he got saved, and he turned his life around. But I believe that there's a different way that we can begin to operate, a more mature way than if-then-else logic when it comes to the things of God. And to do that, I want to go to a story in Daniel chapter 3, and it's a well-known story. Most of you would have probably heard it before. But I'm warning you that if you want to know which operating system you operate out of, the place where you figure it out is when your faith comes under fire. You see, when things go well, you don't really know which operating system you're running according to. But when the pressure comes, when there's a moment of choice, when the persecution comes, when your faith is tested, well, then you figure out, like, really what's going on underneath. King Nebuchadnezzar, most powerful man on earth in 600 BC, the most wealthy man, biggest army, Babylonian Empire in what is modern-day Iraq, would go and conquer nations. Nebuchadnezzar went and he conquered Judah in Jerusalem. And he took the Hebrew people out of there, the cream of the crop, the most intelligent, the cleverest, the royalty, and he brought them to Babylon, immersed them into his culture to make them become like the Babylonians. 3 years of training, literature, language, how to worship in the Babylonian culture. And the question of this story becomes, will the Hebrew people who have been removed from Judah and put into Babylon, will they conform to the Babylonian culture, or will they stand true to their convictions? And over the past few weeks, as we've unpacked Daniel chapter 1 and 2, we've seen how they stand upon their convictions in the face of pressure, in the face of persecution. And as they do that, God elevates them to places of influence. But King Nebuchadnezzar, he's a volatile, prideful, insecure, powerful, controlling, domineering leader. And last week, we spoke about Daniel's interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream about this big statue that gets crushed by a rock, which is a representation of the kingdom of God, the kingdom that will last forever. Nebuchadnezzar is so happy that Daniel's given the interpretation of the dream that he begins to fall at Daniel's feet and proclaim how great Daniel is. And then the chapter ends. And chapter 3 begins like this. And then King Nebuchadnezzar built a gold statue 30 meters high and 3 meters wide. That's as big as this whole room and half as wide. And he set it up on the plain of Dura. And he called all the people, the prefects and the satraps and the chief authorities, to the dedication service of the statue. And he issued a decree. And he said, when the music plays, everyone is to stop what they're doing, fall on their face, and worship the statue. So every person from every nation that had been brought into Babylon, whenever they heard the music play, they had to fall down. He gave them this threat. He said, if you don't bow, you're going to burn. If you don't fall on your face, you'll be thrown into a fiery furnace. And I was just thinking about how prideful, insecure leaders demand respect and worship. I mean, here's a guy who's elevated to this position, and he's still demanding worship from people. Could you imagine what it would be like in that land? You're going about your business, and suddenly you hear the music starts playing, and you stop whatever you're doing, you just drop it, and you fall, and you worship this statue. Like, oh my goodness, the music's playing. Just worship. It's kind of like another musical chairs, right? We know that game. The music's playing. Okay, it stopped. Okay, let's get up and carry on what we're doing. I wonder if Nebuchadnezzar was sitting on his throne and he was just like, okay, play the music now. Now. Okay, stop. Okay, play now. And he's watching all the people in the city falling to the statue. And And then some of the Chaldeans, who are the locals, they went to King Nebuchadnezzar. And they said, hey, O great king, there are some of the Jews that you brought from Judah. They're not falling and worshiping, so you have to throw them into the fiery furnace, because that's what you said. If they don't bow, they're going to burn. If they don't fall in the face, they're going to get fired. Daniel chapter 3, verse 14. So Nebuchadnezzar, he sends out his messengers to go and fetch these three guys. He brings them into his presence. Nebuchadnezzar asked them, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. By the way, their names are actually Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. That's their Hebrew names. The Hebrew names speak of the goodness of God. Nebuchadnezzar had them renamed into Babylonian names that speak of the Babylonian God. So Nebuchadnezzar, in this story, the reason why these names are here is because it's told from Nebuchadnezzar's perspective. He asked them, is it true that you don't serve my gods or worship the gold statue that I've set up? And I love this part. Now, if you're ready, like he's giving them a choice. When you're ready, when you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harp, the drum, and every kind of music, will fall down and worship the statue that I made. But if you don't worship it, you will immediately be thrown into a furnace of blazing fire. And who is the God who can rescue you from my power? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king. Not King Nebuchadnezzar. Just Nebuchadnezzar. We don't need to give you an answer to this question. I love it. We don't even need to answer your question. If the God we serve exists, well, then he can rescue us from the furnace of blazing fire, and he can rescue us from the power of you, the king. But even if he does not rescue us, we want you as king to know that we will not serve your gods or worship the gold statue that you have set up. Don't miss these words. Even if he does not. Even if he does not. Those words are so powerful because they shift from an if-then-else logic treatment of God into a complete trust in him. It's not like, God, if you get us out of this mess with Nebuchadnezzar, well, then we promise we will keep on worshiping you. Else, if we bow to the statue, would you forgive us for bowing because we really want to save our lives and avoid the fiery furnace? Even if he does not. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because what's happening is their faith is being tested. I mean, this is the moment that everyone who begins to follow Jesus fears, right? Is the cliched story of if someone puts a gun to your head, would you recant your faith or would you stand firm? Would you go, well, I'm sure God would understand. I was really scared in the moment, so I just said, no, I actually don't believe in Jesus to save your life. When the testing comes, your faith is revealed. When the pressure comes, when the question is, well, will you bow to the statue, even if it means you get burnt, or will you stand firm upon your convictions and not cave? Oh, Nebuchadnezzar gets so angry at this defiant attitude towards him. The next verse says, and his face changed towards them, and he was filled with rage. And he ordered his soldiers to heat the furnace 7 times hotter than it's normally heated. He ordered them to bind up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and to carry them into the furnace and throw them in there bound. The fire was so hot that as these 3 were being carried up by the strongest, mightiest soldiers, the flames of the furnace killed the soldiers as they began to throw them into the furnace. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego fell bound into the furnace. Nebuchadnezzar, his rage beginning to dissipate a bit, feeling satisfied, jumps up in alarm. And he says to his people, didn't we throw 3 people into the furnace? Oh yes, great king, we threw 3 in. He said, well, I see 4 in there. And the 4th has a face like the son of the gods. When do you think Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego figured that the fire wasn't having an effect on them? Do you think it was on the way up to the furnace? Do you think it was as they were falling into the flames? I mean, I imagine they've resigned themselves to death. It's going, God, this is it. Our time in Babylon is done. And suddenly, as they fall into these flames, something happens. They realize, we're not getting burned. And the ropes are gone. And they stand up and they look at each other. It's like, bro, are you all right? Yeah, I'm all right. Are you all right? Yeah. They're like, whoa, who's that guy? And most commentators say the 4th person in the fire is a pre-incarnate Jesus, meaning it's the Son of God before he was Jesus, born of Mary. Like, this is Jesus in the fire with them. And here's the thing, when Jesus is close to you, oh, everything's easy. I mean, they're in the midst of the furnace and Jesus is with them, but it's easy because they're not burnt. Oh, it's beautiful. And King Nebuchadnezzar, he goes up to the entrance of the furnace and he calls to them. And he says this, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out. Now it's decision time. If you were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, would you rather stay in the furnace with Jesus or go out to Nebuchadnezzar? I don't know this for sure, but I imagine there was a little conversation going on between Jesus and them. Like, Jesus, can we just stay here with you in the furnace? Because we're protected in the fire when you're next to us. Is it okay if we just hang out here? I mean, do we really have to go back? We'd rather just stay with you, Jesus. And I think Jesus is like, okay, guys, it's been cool hanging out. It's time to go now. Go and show them my power. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they walk out of the furnace, and the prefects and the satraps, Nebuchadnezzar, they gather around, and they notice that their clothes are perfect. Their hair hasn't been singed. There's not even a smell of smoke upon them. Power. So then Nebuchadnezzar, he has a change of heart. I mean, this guy's volatile. Then he issues a decree. Nebuchadnezzar says this in verse 28. "Oh, praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel and rescued his servants who trusted in him. They violated the king's command and they risked their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own." Isn't it just amazing that the very fire that was meant to be the end of them became the furnace in which they met the real king? And I was just wondering for you, is perhaps the thing that you're scared of most, the thing that tests you the most, is going to be the very thing that gives you the biggest testimony of the goodness of God in your life. The thing that you're trying to avoid when the pressure comes, is like, oh, I'm feeling like I need to give into the pressure because otherwise I'm going to get burnt, otherwise things are going to get heated. Maybe if you stand then in the midst of that consequence, you're going to find Jesus. And you're going to have a story that's going to last for generations to come. Therefore, I, Nebuchadnezzar, I issue a decree that anyone of any people, nation, or language who says anything offensive against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they will be torn limb from limb and their house made a garbage dump. For there is no other God who is able to deliver like this. And then the king rewarded Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. In life, each of us are going to face moments like this. Maybe it's not a fiery furnace. Maybe it's not the risk of death. But we face moments where there's a choice, where there's a decision to be made. And the question is, will you compromise? Or will you stand courageous? Will you stand upon what you believe in? Or will you bow to the pressure? When someone asks you to look the other way, or just to go with the flow, will you do that? Will you fall in line? Or will you stand upon, with faith and courage in your heart, the values that God has put into your heart? When the moment of compromise comes, will you conform to the peer pressure, or will you stand firm and courageous? You see, really what this is a question of trust. It's not if-then logic. Hey, God, if you get me out of this, well, then I'm going to do that. This is completely different. It's a different operating system. And it goes like this: God, whatever happens, I trust you. Because I know there's a bigger story at play. And my life is not the most important thing. See, this is a question of worship. And I believe with everything in me, and I don't think you can convince me otherwise, I believe that who or what you worship will determine what you can withstand. And if you worship a big God, I believe you'll be able to withstand big tests. If you worship the God of heaven, and what does worship mean? Worship is not singing songs to God. Worship is a posture of the heart that directs to Him first and foremost, to His will and His kingdom and His plans, and everything is about Him, and He's the hero of the story and you are not. That's what worship is. Worship is putting God first in every area, and I believe that when you worship a big God, when the tests come, you'll be able to withstand big tests. But if you worship a small God, a God with a small g, if you worship a gold statue, if you worship the approval of people, if you worship power, if you worship money, hey, if you worship yourself, well, when the tests come, you're not going to be able to withstand much. Because what you worship will determine what you can withstand. This is a question of testing. Because your operating system is only revealed when the tests come. And Jesus never promised anyone who follows Him an easy life. I could paraphrase His words like this: in this world you will have testing, and the tests will reveal what your operating system is. But take courage, because I've overcome the world. This is a question of what happens when the fire comes, because you see, fire is a testing. And this furnace reveals to me that Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, well, they had a substance of faith that couldn't be consumed by a physical fire. But for us, when the testing comes, what will it reveal? When the test comes, when the challenge comes, when the moment comes, when the decision comes, will we cave to the pressure? Or will we stand courageous and say, God, I trust you no matter the outcome. God, I trust you, and I will believe that you are good, even if I don't get the outcome that I want. Because I believe that you have a bigger perspective than mine, and a higher perspective. I believe that you are good, and you have a plan, and you have a place for me in your plan. But I only see a little part. So sometimes the prayers that I pray are so limited and so small. So, oh God, would you help me when the tests come to keep my eyes upon you? and to declare to the kings of this world, say, I will not bow to you because I serve a greater God. And this is about a choice, because some of you might be in the room and go like, oh my goodness, this just makes me feel so guilty because every time a testing comes, I cave. Every time the fire comes, it's just, I go, I'm out. I'm not going through the fire for you, Jesus. I want to tell you a truth about following Jesus, and this is it. The way to live is to die. And as long as you want to live, well, Jesus won't live in you. But when you come to the place, say, Jesus, I'm willing to die to my ambition, to my dreams, to my will, to my way, well, then he becomes king in your life, and the supernatural life of Christ comes through, flowing through you. And this is the choice. And I want to say to you today, no matter how many times you have failed, no matter how many times you've avoided the furnace, no matter how many times you have caved to the pressure, today is a new day. You can arise and you can declare from today things are different. By the power of the Holy Spirit in you, who puts courage in your heart to withstand any challenge, any pressure. I want you to live indomitable. That means impossible to discourage or defeat. Do not let the testing fires discourage you, but stand upon the foundation of Jesus Christ and say, come what may, I trust in you and the power of the gospel. Oh, I believe if this truth grips your heart, this city will change, your family will change, this nation will change. I believe it with everything in me, and here's why, because I've seen it. I'll show you a picture from this week. This is me and Ben up in rural Zambia. Can you put that picture of Ben up? This is Ben. Ben used to be a witch doctor in rural Zambia. And some years ago, some friends of mine walked through rivers, fought off crocodiles and hippos and mosquitoes. And they met Ben and they shared the gospel with him. And he got saved in that moment. He gave his life to Jesus. And his story, we heard it, he told his story through a translator. And he said, in the village, they would worship demons. And the kids would play drums and they would sing to the demons, otherwise the demons would torment him. And then these guys came and found him. They shared the gospel with him. And he said, this is truth. This is the true God. I want to believe this. And he gave his life to Jesus and he got baptized, and in his pocket was a pack of cigarettes and they got wet. So he came up and he's like, well, I'm not smoking anymore. And Ben was not just a witch doctor, but he was a trainer of witch doctors. So when he got saved, he gathered all his apprentices and he said, guys, there's a bigger truth than what we've been following. And he told them the gospel and they got saved. And he said the peace of God came and the demons left him. And then with the others' help that shared the gospel with him, they planted a church in this rural village. And Ben has since handed over the church to someone else, who's handed over the church to someone else. And they've planted 150 churches in that area. And not just that, but as the demons left, peace has come. A water well has come into the village. A school has been started. A clinic has come. You see, the gospel doesn't just change a person's heart, it changes the very atmosphere around you. So when the moment of choice comes and you say, well, will I avoid the furnace or will I step into it and find Jesus in it? When that truth grips your heart, it's not just you that changes, but when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego walk out of the place of testing, the king, Nebuchadnezzar, the pagan king, elevates them to a place of influence in Babylon so that they begin to change Babylon instead of Babylon changing them. And I believe it's the same for you. That as the gospel gets into your heart, it's not just you that changes, but you begin to change the very city around you by the power that is Jesus in you. And I just can't think of any better way to spend your life than to build his kingdom rather than yours. I just feel like some of you need to reaffirm your commitment to him today. And say, Jesus, I want to live for you. I'm in the midst of a testing now, but I want to find you in that fire. Would you put a courage in my heart to walk in boldly? I mean, I'm just imagining these guys going up the ramp and wondering what's going to happen, nothing's happening, nothing happened. Jesus is here. What? What if that was your story? I believe it can be. Would you stand to your feet so I can pray?
We hope that this message has encouraged you. We would love to help you follow Jesus, know your true identity, grow in freedom, and live with purpose. Your next step may be to join our next 3-week journey through the pathway, to join a life group, or to meet with someone from our team. Please contact us via email at hello@freechurch.life, and we would love to connect with you.